Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 149. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and if you want to catch this podcast live, you can go over to twitch.tv/Enigma9011 every Sunday, usually at 8 p.m. Eastern. Join the chat over there, join on the fun and the conversation, but if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. You can go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, wherever you guys are watching or listening, feel free, or please, leave a comment, rate, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Leave a review. It may seem small, but it does go a long way in helping us out. And you can even go to the merch store too. If you'd like to support that way, you're more than welcome to do that. But yeah, we'd love you for it. Thank you. Today, flying solo, as you can see, except for the moose. Today we're doing two topics. Both are kind of review topics or kind of thoughts and stuff like that. So, just a heads up on those topics. Both will be spoiler free to start, and then we're kind of gonna go into the weeds of it. So I'll give you a heads up, obviously, when we're making that switch and transition in each of them. But just so you know going in, if you want spoilers on one and not on the other, like I said, going into it, you can plan ahead. To kick off, we are going to be talking about, or rather I'm going to be talking about, House of the Dragon Season 1 and my thoughts overall on the show and how it played out. As of recording, we're about a week away from the finale, from it wrapping up for now. And overall, I really enjoyed the show. There were times definitely where I don't want to say frustrated, but I was a little bit down with my excitement for it and like looking forward to the next week, etc. And I think there's a few things that kind of happened in the show that they chose to do that kind of, I guess, caused that or added to that feeling. I will say this before I guess I get into the thick of it with this show. I had watched Game of Thrones, obviously prior to this, but I had watched or gotten into that show late. Excuse me one second. I'd gotten into the show late and not watched it week to week until the final season. So I binge watched, 1 through 7 seasons with Lady. She had already seen them, so I was able to ask questions and whatnot as we went on, and I enjoyed it from there. I thought it was really good. I know, we all had our thoughts on the final season. I think now with hindsight, yeah, it wasn't the best, but still overall I did enjoy it, enjoyed the show. So like I said, only the finale or the final season I watched week to week. So I guess I was a little spoiled in that way. But going week to week in this show has been a little rougher. Not like because the show's been bad at any point, but I think for my retention, it's been bad. And I get it. That's how TV used to be and all that jazz. But with so many characters similar to the original Game of Thrones, not as many, but still quite a few, it's it's definitely very tough to kind of stay along, or at least remember everybody's actual name instead of just like, oh yeah, it's this person, oh yeah, it's that person, and then like they're part of the Valerian group, it's the Seahorse clan or whatever. So I would say that was something that, it's not the show's fault, but that was something that I just noticed for me that was a little down. But I will say, okay, so that was one aspect, and then the other aspect was they are trying to tell a story here that spans quite a few years. So the show takes some time jumps in the series. So I think episodes 1 through 4 are like pretty relatively close to the same time era, and your main, well, I'd say 2 of the main characters, their actresses change post, I think it's episode 4, maybe it's 5. And with that time jump, along with another one, which I'll kind of allude to later once we get into spoilers, there was a little bit of a disconnect because it's like, oh, okay, I built this, relationship and like this building of like enjoying the characters of the original iterations with the actresses, and now I have to kind of reform that with these new actresses. Like obviously it's still the continuation of their story, but now these actresses are portraying them, so it's like, oh, now I got to get used to you. And both did a fantastic job. It just took a little while post that time jump, that initial time jump, that first episode, to kind of get reacclimated, I guess, or like reinvested into their characters' stories. So I would say that was a hang up. And like I said, there was another big one, but that will get into spoiler territory. So those were just the two little hiccups, I guess I would say I had, selfishly, with the first season. I thought the story was really good. I like the dynamic of not really suspense, but like kind of similar to the original Game of Thrones, how things are. There's a lot happening, a lot of different stories are in play, a lot of different motivations are happening, and seeing the threads, like you might not see it initially when it's happening, but once the payoff happens or reveal, it's like, oh my god, yeah, that makes so much sense, seeing the little trail along the way of what was happening. So yeah, overall I think it was good. If you enjoyed Game of Thrones, I definitely would recommend watching this show. And even if not, like, it is only the one season right now, so that's nice. It's a totally separate story as well. Like, this is, oh boy, hundreds of years prior to the initial show. So you'll recognize like some family house names of like, oh, Targaryen and, oh crap, Lannister and Stark and all that stuff, but none of the characters like overlap from series to series. So that is kind of nice, at least for a jumping in point for someone new. Yeah, show was great overall. I did enjoy the story they told throughout, minus those little hiccups I talked about. And I think that's it for my spoiler-free stuff. So let's talk about spoilers. I'm not going to go into breaking down each episode. No, that would be crazy. But just talking about like some characters I enjoyed, some characters I didn't enjoy. And let's be honest, there was one main character that, I don't know, could do no wrong. I don't know, I could say that. But like, I was just rooting for the whole time. And that's Viserys. Poor King Viserys, just trying to, play with his model set of the city and just wants his family to be chill and hang out and be cool with each other. And everybody's bitching and moaning about this hierarchy, this line, and blah, blah, blah. And I get it. It's the point of the show, right? Is, oh, who's going to succeed? Who's going to be king next? Blah. But I just felt so bad for him. And seeing his character arc, yeah, just like every time it seemed like he had something going for him, then the other shoe would fall, and it would just be a whole nother mess of problems. And obviously he's dealing with that, I don't know if it was disease, but whatever was that ailment he did have, seeing it obviously slowly chip away at him throughout the show, and then at the very end, like, he's in rough shape. He's able to pull himself together for one more act to kind of reunite the family, passes away, and then obviously, as the finale shows, shit's going to hit the fan again. It's like, fuck, come on, man. You couldn't even do it for him. So yeah, I was cheering for Viserys the whole time. And then the only other character that I think throughout the entire thing was like, yes, you are what I would classify as good, would be that head guard at the castle, Sir Harold something West. Oh, are you not going to even tell me the character's name after I click this? You son of a gun. Hold on. Stupid internet. Oh, he's in The Hobbit too. Didn't even know that. Let's see. House of the Dragon. Sir Harold Westerling. That guy was the homie. Just doing his job. Just, being the royal guard for the king, obviously Viserys, and Rhaenyra, the princess, and just, keeping things on the up and up. And then once things happen later, he's like, nah, this isn't right. This isn't how things are supposed to go. And he steps down. So I like him. I I would assume he's going to make a comeback at least at some point. I don't know if he's going to go help Rhaenyra in the conflict that is coming up, as he kind of stood by her, and the rightful passage of power, and the rightful heir. But we'll see. If not, I just hope he goes on to live the rest of his days in peace and happiness. All right, so let's talk about all the shitholes that we got, because there are quite a few. All right, let's start with Mr. Matt Smith, Damon. Damon is like back and forth of like, I want to cheer for him, and then he's the biggest scumbag there is. He has this whole story arc with Rhaenyra, young Rhaenyra, the first actress, and like, he's duking out with his brother. They just don't have the best relationship because he's the edgy renegade of the family. And then he, like, they're into each other, Rhaenyra and him, but he like teases her so bad and like bringing her to the, you know, I guess brothel is the correct term, getting her all riled up, and then just being like, nah, peace. And I don't know if that was his better judgment or whatever, but I was just like, this is disgusting, because obviously, well, she's younger at that point. And then, yeah, obviously from a current age standpoint, like the whole incestual thing, which ties a lot into this show, and oh boy, that's a whole nother thing, which I get, the pure blood time, like, oh, we're gonna make our family stronger that way. I get it. It's still weird. So anyways, gets her all riled up, and then just, yeah, pieces out, whether because of his better judgment or for whatever reason. That's weird. And then towards the end of the show, when him and Rhaenyra are actually married, he like chokes her out and threatens her. Well, not chokes her out, chokes her and threatens her when she supposed to be the queen and, you know, have the power. Like, whoa, that it came out of nowhere too, because they seemed to kind of calm down, and like was supporting her and being the queen and dealing with the upcoming conflict of the big war. And then, yeah, all of a sudden he kind of snaps, chokes her, and is like, nah, you better, like, puts her into place. And it's like, what? Where do you feel, how do you feel so confident to do this? Obviously nothing comes out of it, punishment wise, at least as of right now. So it's like, okay, I guess good on you. You could do that, but it's like, woof. That could have ended so poorly for him. Like, obviously, she could have flipped and sent guards after him or whatever. Just like, yee. That very tense situation and not great. And then, obviously, earlier on, I kind of skipped around, or I'll be skipping around, but him killing his initial wife just to remarry and kind of plinko his way into power, or at least higher into the power. Scummy there. So, yeah. Damon, piece of shit. Who else is a piece of shit? Let's talk about Alicent Hightower, Rhaenyra's best friend. Also a piece of shit. I was cheering. She was one of the ones I was cheering for so much before the initial time jump. Like, she's just Rhaenyra's friend. I thought there was something between them at first, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess not. Anyways, just Rhaenyra's friend, just trying to be supportive with her mom passing, and then her dad manipulates her and be like, oh, go talk to the king and try and be his buddy. And then obviously they marry, and then she comes into power, and like her ego gets blown way out of proportion. And it's like, what happened to you? Power really corrupted you and all that jazz. So big yikes on her character growth. Let's talk about Kristen Cole. I feel bad for Kristen Cole, as I feel a lot of us did. Him and Rhaenyra end up hooking up after the whole rile up business with Damon, right? And they, you know, do the horizontal tango, and he's all invested. He's like, oh my god, obviously I, as the honor guard, have sold the cloak. I haven't done what I'm supposed to, but he loves Rhaenyra, and he's like, let's run away together. You don't want to be in power. But she's like, oh, no, I have to do it because that's how things are. And he's like, oh, all right. So I'm just going to be like your whore is essentially her proposition that they could do stuff in secret, but not. And rightfully so, he's not happy. But then he's just moody bitch the whole rest of the show and just holds the biggest grudge, which I guess a lot of these characters do. And he snaps at the wedding because he feels threatened and his secret's going to get out by, what was it, Laenor's lover? Is that the character? Yeah, Laenor Valerian's side piece. And he misinterprets it and flips out and bashes this guy's face in. Jesus Christ. And then, yeah, he's just Alicent's, like, right-hand man for the rest of the show. So he's a piece of shit as well. Let's just keep, like I said, there's a big tally of these guys. We already talked about Otto manipulating Alicent, his daughter, into, getting into power and getting into even any kind of royalness for their family, so whatever. Corlys, aka Seahorse Man, he goes back and forth for me. Like, he's very selfish at points, and like Rhaenys, his wife, like, toughs it out, but she's got some shit to deal with him, with how obsessed he is also with the throne for himself and his family, and how he's worked hard for it and had to, claw and scratch his way to the point that they're at. Which I get it. It's just like sometimes too far. I guess we'll talk about Aegon. What a joke. I get it. He's a kid. He's rightful heir in a way. But he's just being thrust into the situation and has well, he has a birthright to be there, but no right otherwise to be there because, well, he has no idea what he's doing. He doesn't take it seriously. And once it gets to the point of his crowning ceremony, like, now he's like, ooh, I like this admiration from people. Like, he seeks that attention, as we saw previously with his acts of I guess misbehavior, but there's a better term for it. I can't think of it at the moment. So yeah, getting that attention from everyone and that reception, he's like, oh, now this is, so he's just power hungry, or attention hungry rather. He's not going to be able to do a good job, as we'll probably see in later seasons, or season. I think they've only announced a second, but he's a tool. And then the character I want to like, but can't, I feel, is Aemond, his brother. Now, Aemon's got an interesting story. So, he's the second born of Alicent and Viserys. Okay, great. So, he's not going to be king, because, well, his older brother usurps that, or whatever the term is higher on the chain. So, he's not going to be king. So, you feel bad there, because he's just a dude. Second, the whole Targaryen family, their whole thing, dragons. He doesn't have a dragon. Apparently, the dragons are supposed to lay an egg, I think, when they're born as well, and then the egg will hatch at an appropriate time. Well, whatever happened, I could be getting this wrong, I apologize. Whatever happens, he doesn't get an egg, and he gets made fun of by his older brother, Aegon, as well as Rhaenyra's kids from, not Laenor, because Laenor is gay, but from a side piece, which we'll talk about as well after Aemond. So anyways, so he gets teased, and you feel bad for him. You feel sympathy, because he just wants to find his place, right? So as he's a kid, eventually he's going to take someone else's dragon. He takes one of the Seahorse daughters, who marries Daemon. Is this confusing yet if you haven't watched it and you don't care? Yes. Yes, I understand. So anyways, the mom dies. He goes to the dragon and essentially takes over. And he flies it back to town. All the kids, so, well, not his brother, the two Rhaenyra's kids, and then the daughters of Daemon and the wife who just passed, all are pissed Makes sense. And Eamon just goes on an ass whooping spree, just slapping kids, punching kids, boys and girls, doesn't matter, just lays the smack down on all of them. And I'm like, oh, I was rooting for you. This ain't cool. Like, I get the boys, like, all right, boy quarrel. But as soon as he, like, bah, just nails one of the girls, like, that's a no. Okay, word. You are a piece of shit. Obviously, you know, he gets his comeuppance and loses an eye. Fun stuff. So yeah, I was like, fuck this guy. Okay, can't cheer for him. Then we get the second time jump, and everybody's older. And boy, oh boy, classic SpongeBob meme. Oh no, he's hot. He looks so cool. He's got this dope eye patch. He's got the long flowing locks. It looks like fucking Sephiroth with the chiseled jaw and everything. I was like, fuck, he looks awesome. So I'm like, man, should I like this guy again? No, because he's still technically a piece of shit. And he ends up killing one of Rhaenyra's kids at the very, very end of the last episode via dragon. Kind of. The dragons kind of go rogue, go renegade, and don't listen to the writers, and the brother does, you know, get munched on. And he does feel remorse, or at least from what we could tell, and fear. So it's like, it's not really your fault, but it kind of was your fault because you were poking the bear. So I don't know. I want to like him, but maybe it's selfishly just because he's cool looking. I don't know. We'll see. So let's talk about the time jumps again. Let's circle around to that, because there is one character that I feel like I was supposed to feel something for, and this might also kind of tie in with like not connecting to the older women actresses that played Rhaenyra and Alicent during the time jump of like, how am I supposed to connect with you when you just popped up? And it's like, oh, well, I like the other actresses. Like, okay, anyways, I'm circling back. So I talked about the proposition between young Rhaenyra and Kristen Cole, right? Hey, we banged. Hey, we're not going to run away together, but do you want to be my side piece? Kristen Cole's like, nah, don't want that, and pieces out. So with Laenor being gay, they need heirs, right? Well, obviously that situation's not going to work out, so Rhaenyra has another side piece. This relationship with, what's the guy's name? Harwin Strong. Has no build, has no history, and we pop into this first time jump, and they had like 2 or 3 kids? And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I get it. You know, that's what they're supposed to do, helps cover up the whole relationship thing and gives them rightful heirs. But at the end of that episode, after that initial time jump, the Hightowers are going to come back into power, at least Otto is as the hand, thanks to Larys Strong, which, yeah, that's his brother, essentially killing Harwin and his dad via fire, like setting the town on fire and whatever, they burned to death. And I'm watching this and I'm like, I should feel something right now from what you're telling me. I feel nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that was probably my lowest point of the series, of like, literally at the end, I was not pissed off. That's a little dramatic. I was kind of angry and frustrated. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care that this guy died. I don't care about the new actresses just because it was that time camp and I didn't have the time to, you know, I wasn't connected to them as the characters. I was just like, nothing matters right now. And like I said, eventually they'll turn it around with a little bit more time in the episodes that will precede it. But I didn't give 2 shits about Harwin Strong. I was just like, okay, you know, I feel like we should have had more time with him. I don't think he was established prior to that episode, if he was in the like one of the tournaments that they had for the jousting, or if he had any kind of rapport with young Rhaenyra. But yeah, he just kind of showed up, they had the kids, and then, oh, he's dead. He tried to be a good dad by, you know, teaching the kids, but he couldn't be obviously too obvious with it, because trying to hush, and he's just there to fill a role. But yeah, I was like, it meant nothing to me. So I would say that was the biggest, like character wise, like what to me. Yeah, I don't know. I know I was a little bit all over the place, but overall, I did enjoy the show. There were the few points where I was like, kind of iffy on it with the time jumps, me being week to week, but everybody's week to week. So kind of my retention with like who's who. I'm sure it's only going to get more convoluted with upcoming seasons as more characters are added, and who knows, maybe another time jump. I mean, we're going to be fighting a war right now, spoiler alert, between 2, potentially 3 parties. So we're going to need more characters to back certain sides of this. As for the finale, I think the setup of the war was good. I get the impact of the closing with the dragon fight. It almost felt like not as impactful as maybe a finale should. It kind of felt almost like the cliffhanger of a typical week-to-week episode. So that would be my only, I guess, critique or criticism there, is maybe doing something more bigger, or at least feel bigger. Like, obviously it's a big thing of the character dying, but tonality-wise it felt moot, and maybe it was because of that slow pan into older Rhaenyra of like getting the message of her son dying. Her reaction, obviously, very shocked and very sad, might have been better if there was some like explosion of emotion or anger, or if we just left it at the dragon part. Maybe there's just the music as well, just how that tone was. It was very somber and low tone. Who knows? I'm not a director. I'm not anything like that. But overall, overall, show was really good, especially from Lady and I going to like, oh yeah, it's on tonight. Do you just want to try it? And being fully invested in it after no like excitement building into the show or anything like that. I wouldn't say I'm like chomping at the bit for season 2 or like waiting with anticipation, but once it does come out, I'll be excited to jump back into this world. Hopefully not be too confused after however long it has been. But yeah, they do it. Jesus, this series, whether it's House or it's Game of Thrones, I will say their storytelling that HBO does is really, really good and makes you invested into their product. So yeah, just kudos to them, and we'll see where it goes from here. Moving on over to topic 2, let's do another review. Let's talk about Gotham Knights. So I did one stream of this on launch day and just kind of wanted to give my thoughts about the game. Since then, I have played about like 14 plus hours. I'm never rushing through the story, so like these numbers may be inflated, and I'm doing everything. So overall, if you're going to do point to point like the main story, I'd say it's probably shorter than that. Definitely. So take that with a grain of salt. As of right now, like I said, 14 plus hours in, I'm about halfway through the main story, and then as the side quests are going on, have varying progress through those. Similar to House, we'll do spoiler free, and then we'll go into spoiler stuff. Overall, how is this game? I'd say this game is good. I am enjoying my time with this game. After that initial stream, I was a bit questioning of it, but I think I know where I went wrong with kind of entering the game, or like how I started it. So obviously this is WB Montreal, which made Arkham Origins, the kind of prequel spin-off to the Arkham series that Rocksteady would make, right? Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight. So going into this, I, and maybe some other people, we really wanted another Arkham game, right? Rocksteady hasn't put anything out for a few years. They're working on the Suicide Squad game, which was supposed to come out this year, but has been delayed till next year. And we're really excited for that. So when WB Montreal, released and announced the stuff for Gotham Knights, it seemed like, oh shit, we're going to get a Arkham-style game from WB Montreal. They did a great job with Origins. I don't think Origins gets enough credit for what it is. It's not, I wouldn't say it supersedes or is better than any of the Rocksteady Arkham titles, but it is a great game with fun villains and a good story and a decent Gotham City that you can explore and whatnot. So they have the repertoire to pull something like this off. But now they are not constrained with, okay, Rocksteady's already established this universe. They have, they can go with whatever. And they have done that with the story. No spoilers yet, just obviously still initial stuff. With the story that they're trying to tell of like, hey, Batman is dead, and you are picking up the mantle of protecting Gotham with the 4 sidekicks. Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, Red Hood. And going from there. So we know they could do that, and we were like, at least I was, maybe overhyping of like, oh crap, it's going to be Arkham, another Arkham game, but obviously with a whole different story. We're not going to be continuing anything. And I think that might have hindered my experience that first stream. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the story that they were setting up with Bruce, and in the initial opening scene, you kind of learn what happens to him. And then, once again, picking up the mantle with these 4 sidekicks. I did enjoy that aspect of it. There were different aspects of it that I didn't click with right away. So, for example, the combat, and the big thing was the movement around the city. I didn't connect with these 2 things immediately, and I thought they were kind of boring. So after that first stream, I didn't feel super excited to jump into it immediately. I did want to give it more time because, well, duh, I paid for it, but also like just to give it a fair shake and not harken my whole experience off of a 3 or 4 hour session. So I did want to play more of it, but I just didn't have time initially after. So it did end up being a few days later that I picked this game back up, and I think that is when things really started to click for me. Obviously, there were still those criticisms of the mobility and the combat, but something that made those things better was investing more time into it and kind of paying attention to what makes you more effective in those realms. So, for example, the combat stuff. It's not Arkham combat to the fullest, but it has aspects of it. And while it may seem simple, you have the 2 attack buttons, your square, your punch and stuff, and then your ranged attack, your triangle, or your X and Y if you're playing on Xbox. While you have those, instead of just mashing it and just square, 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 or X, 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 or whatever, if you time it, when your character strikes, your strikes will be more effective and they can land criticals. So learning about this and trying to chain combos together with either that or the ranged weapons and the different enemy variety, like, oh, this enemy, I have to hit a ranged attack if I'm going to even strike on them to create this opening. Or you have the heavy guards where you need to open with a heavy strike to kind of get their defenses down and then go in. And then building on to like other Arkham mechanics with like stealth takedowns or like the ambush takedowns to jump into there quick but get somebody out of the way. Learning more about those mechanics, it became more fun to do. Now, spread across the 4 different characters, I will say for the most part, they are very similar. Obviously, they each do have their slight variety. Robin is going to focus on using... Oh crap, what does he use for his bow staff? Nightwing's going to focus on the Eskrima sticks. Batgirl has I think it's called Tonfa. It's like you grip it and then the stick is along your arm. But also I think it kind of turns into nunchucks, or she has nunchucks. And then Red Hood obviously has his guns. So besides those slight weapon changes, you're not really going to do too much differently from character to character. I will say some characters do benefit a little bit better from the range mechanic. For example, Red Hood is fantastic. He has guns, very simple, pew pew pew. Batgirl using batarangs as her range kind of sucks. Along with Robin, Robin with like his bola things that he'll throw. Nightwing's okay with the darts. But for the hand-to-hand combat stuff, I will say most of them are the same. They do have some varying animations, so that's kind of cool to see, whether it's the stealth takedowns or just the finisher, the combos. So playing at each of them is fun, but I wouldn't say a character stands out above the rest of like, oh my god, I have to play as Batgirl because of X, Y, Z reason. They're all pretty much the same. Play who you want to play. They're all pretty fun. The mobility. So obviously in past Arkham games, minus Asylum because you were just stuck on the island, you are in Gotham City and you have this big open area to explore. So, well, how would you do it? If it was Arkham City, you would go around and glide with Batman after ziplining from point to point. If it was night, you would have the same ability, but then you would also have the I want to say Batwing, but that's the flying one. Batmobile, geez, the Batmobile at your disposal. If you wanted to, you could hop in the car and zoom there. I think Origins, you were just gliding as well. So go over to Gotham Knights, and you have two choices. You either have the Bat Cycle, which somehow we have one after Bruce does this thing. So we have the Bat Cycle at our disposal, and then we can also zip line from point to point. However, with these four, two of them don't have capes, there is no gliding involved. So it is literally zip line, jump, zip line, jump, zip line, jump. Initially, hated it. I thought this was worst. And I won't say it fully redeemed itself. I do not think it is on the same level as the gliding and stuff like that. However, if you do get the hang of the timing, the grapple can get better. The thing that I will say is a detriment is every character is the same. I get from a developer standpoint why you would want to make everybody the same in a way, because then nobody feels like, Robin's a piece of shit, he's the worst character. It kind of keeps them all on this level playing field. However, it would have been nice to see a little bit of variety between each of the four characters to make them more unique and make them more exciting and stand out. So I don't know how you could do that with mobility. Like I said, two of the characters do have capes, two don't. So if you kind of gave Batgirl and Robin this glide mechanic as we had seen in, I think it was Arkham Knight. Yeah, Arkham Knight, you could play as each of them, where they could still swoop, they could still glide. I think that would have benefited to them. But once again, I get how that could have been an unfair shake to Nightwing, to Red Hood, to be like, nah, I don't even want to play these characters. Now, I can see both sides of the argument where, should that even matter as a player? Like, I want to have the best experience or best experience no matter what, so why limit me in my abilities? I get that side of the argument too, so I could see it both ways. But as for mobility, everybody's the same with that zip line. It does get better with timing, but I don't think it's the best. The Bat Cycle is okay. It's another one of those things where if you get used to it, drifting around corners, turning, things do get easier, and it does get faster to go to the city. The city's not giant, but at times it does feel taxing, I guess you could say, with the rate of speed that you're going from point to point, especially if you're going opposite sides of the map. Just like, oof, okie dokie. If you're smart about it, if you're hitting everything and anything like I'm doing along the way, it's not that bad, because you're going to drive or travel for a little bit. Oh, we're at the next crime. Oh, we're at the next story point. Oh, we're at the next side quest. As you're doing your patrols each night, it's not as bad. But if you are, simply going from opposite end to opposite end, that's a little rough. So I would say those are at least the initial thoughts from that initial stream on Friday to playing more of it afterwards. I would say the game's good. I get why people may be let down with this game, and I'm not sure if it's just similar to what I was feeling like. I want an Arkham game, and this isn't an Arkham game. Does it have Arkham elements to it? Absolutely, but this is WB Montreal's full and full. It's not, trying to replicate something that someone else made. This is their vision or their project from the up and up. While it takes, obviously, inspirations from the main Arkham series, it's its own entity, and I don't know, once again, if people were just, those expectations were in the wrong space or whatever. But I do think it's good overall, and as I'll get into more spoilers soon, I think from the story beats, there are positives that can come out of this. Do I think this will be Game of the Year contender? No, but I do think this is a good experience overall if you are a Batman fan and a comic book fan. I think that's fun. So let's get into spoilers. Okay, there's your clear. So, main story, like I said, I'm about halfway through. And then there are the side quests. So let's talk about the main story to start. So the main story, as we saw in the trailers, is going to focus on the Court of Owls. Now, personally, I don't know much about the Court of Owls. I've heard that initial story, graphic novel, whatever, is fantastic, so I do want to give it a shot at some point. But if you don't know what the Court of Owls is, it's essentially the higher ups and the wealthy in Gotham that have been like pulling strings behind the scenes for years and years and years and years to kind of essentially run the city in their own way. So they're this higher up power of the rich and wealthy, and they are trying to, what I've now learned, essentially recreate the Lazarus Pit, which, if you know, is from the League of Shadows, Talia al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul, as we see in the beginning of the story. They're trying to create their own version of it from mining different materials in Gotham and their undergrounds. As the heroes, will learn through Talia that this is, while it has similar effects, it is not as good as the Lazarus Pit. This will provide strength and vitality, but it kind of zonks all free will and eliminates it. So some of the villains that you will deal with in the Court of Owls, called Talons, are essentially like mindless zombies that are very tough to beat. And you'll deal with them. So the rest of the Court of Owls is trying to obviously make this better for themselves. So the story right now has culminated into stopping them. All right. Along the way, you're going to kind of deal with other things, and different characters, which will kind of lead into the side quests. Penguin is involved into the Court of Owls case. He's kind of reformed, but also kind of not. But he's essentially your middleman between the court to kind of get information about them, because he seems to be their fall guy. If something goes wrong, he is the one that's going away and being sent to jail, while the rest gets kind of away with things scot-free. So for the main story, I am enjoying it so far, and I'm enjoying the story beats as they go. I'm excited to see where this goes and plays out. But on the other side of the coin, the side stories. So there are, I would say, 3 main side quests, and they are broken down into 4 parts based on the trophies alone. Each main part, you get a trophy at the end of it, and there's like this in-between where there's challenges, which are things and crimes you need to solve or, stop to progress the story. So side quests are going to focus on 3 characters: Harley Quinn, Mr. Freeze, and Clayface. All villains who have been revealed in one of the trailers. So these side stories are, I'd say they're okay at best. Now, granted, I haven't finished any of them. I am the farthest in Mr. Freeze, with Harley close behind, and then I just started the Clayface one, so maybe his will be good. I don't know. They're okay. The reason I'll say they're okay is they feel totally separate from the world and what's going on. It doesn't feel like they're really big players into what's going on. Like Arkham City did a great job of balancing, okay, the Joker stuff, but also Hugo Strange's stuff is going on, and you got the League of Shadows stuff going on, and it was like all interwoven into each other. While this feels like the Court of Owls stuff is going on, and that's important, but then on a totally separate chapter, Mr. Freeze is doing his things, trying to, freeze everything to save his wife or whatever his shtick is. So my biggest example of this, and once again, spoilers, duh. On the third sequence of Mr. Freeze, he has stolen resources and cryo stuff to make things colder, because eventually he's trying to find a cure to save his wife. That's his whole gimmick. And he is essentially causing this giant winter storm on Gotham. And you're not like traveling to this point to go stop Mr. Freeze. It's literally like, okay, I'm ready for the next section after I did the little challenges prior and stop those crimes. And they teleport you to this set piece. And the set piece was essentially this big building in Gotham, and there's this giant icicle, and it's all frozen, and apparently everything's cold AF in Gotham. You go up there, you lay the smackdown on some, I'm going to keep saying that phrase, I don't know why. You beat the shit out of some guards, you do the boss fight with Freeze, you end up saving the city after doing like this fail safe for this device that's going to go wrong, and then it's going to lead into this last part, which I'm on. And it's just kind of like you do it, and it's done. You don't see the city in the peril of this thing going on. You don't see, it doesn't affect anything else that's going on in the Court of Owls storyline, or maybe some smaller crimes that are happening. It's just literally this big set piece. Everything's fucked. You solve it, and then everything's fine. It just feels so separated from everything that it's like, okay. I mean, it's not bad. It's just off. And granted, other Arkham games, I'm going to keep comparing them to them, because while it's not an Arkham game, this is just our quote closest equivalent to it because of, once again, the inspirations that were taken from it. Other Arkham games, like Arkham City and Arkham Knight, you had these side stories where the characters didn't have anything to do with the overarching plot. You have Zsasz calling you on the phone, threatening different victims. You have, I think it was Mr. Pig with the PYG, who's, taking people's faces and like reforming them and making them beautiful. You had these different side pieces that had nothing to do with the main story, but what I liked about them is they felt fleshed out and they felt part of the world. Now, what I mean by that is, in this, the different crimes that you need to solve are fun because it's just, oh my god, there's crime happening around the city. You could zoom around anywhere and then like, oh, things are happening. It feels organic and alive in that sense. But when you get to the missions themselves on Freeze's storyline or Harley's storyline, those elements feel separate from the city. I didn't have to drive somewhere, then I get to open this door, go in this building in the city. It's like, nope, we're just gonna rip you from this and throw you in here. It doesn't feel connected. While in City and Night, it was literally, okay, you obviously do the build-up points to get to the boss, but then it was like, okay, we found out he's in this building, and then you got to go in that building, and you may have to solve some things to get further in and towards the boss, and then you have this altercation, and then you can exit and leave, and that, like, it's solved. Some of them are shorter, some of them are longer. It depends on the side quest and the villain, but it felt part of the city. These specific set pieces with these villains do not feel that way, and I think that is kind of a lower point towards it. I think another lower point towards it as well is just because there's only these 3. It's cool to see Penguin in the main story. Obviously, we had Roz, we had Talia, who's popped up again. But another thing about these games that make them fun is the giant rogues gallery that Batman has. And that was something cool that we had in the first initial stream was we broke into the GCPD and we had all these Easter eggs. We had Scarface. We talked about the ventriloquist. I think Ratcatcher stuff was there. And it was like, yeah, world building, you know, all these different villains. While we may not see them or have to deal with them in the story or the game, it was just like, oh yeah, there's other things that are going on. And I haven't gotten much of that since that GCPD raid. And like zipping by buildings, nothing really points out to anybody. Like, it just doesn't feel that way. We see the Iceberg Lounge and Penguin's hideout, but as of right now, Court of Owls, the Tool All Ghouls, the 3 here, and Penguin, like 7's not bad, but it feels like they could have done a little bit more, even if we're not, once again, interacting with these people, but make these little Easter eggs or the collectibles where you're world building. I know people, you know, Riddler trophies, Riddler trophies, Riddler trophies. That was something they do. Whether you loved them or hate them, they built the world. You could find different either audio logs of characters in their time in Arkham Asylum, or you could find like artwork or things that would tease them and kind of give a little backstory. The collectibles in this don't have the fun that those have of world building. It's Batarangs, which you do get audio logs of Bruce's early adventures. I haven't listened to them yet. I kind of want to get them all and then listen to them. But then there's like wall art, which doesn't reference any characters, and then certain buildings, which give you like a plaque that you can like, oh, this is a notable spot. Arkham Asylum, I found it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's here. Doesn't even have one of those. I'm like, the fuck? So it's a little disappointing that there's not more characters. I have no idea what Joker's, not history, but if he's around, if he's alive. I don't think I've heard anything about him in this game. Riddler, I've heard zip. No Two-Face at all. Catwoman's, I think we saw maybe Goggles or something did reference her, but there's just like these big characters I feel should be involved or at least talked about, and they're not. So we'll see how this progresses. Obviously still have half of the main story to go. If this will kind of twist and weave its way into something else, we'll have to see how that plays out. But as of right now, a little disappointed with at least the impact that these side quests I feel we're supposed to have. There's also other smaller challenges, once again with the crimes, like the mobs always got something going on. The freaks, which is like Harley and Joker's apparent thing. There's this thing called the Watch, which are like allies of Batman, but they're not super powered people at all. It's just regular citizens who want to make Gotham better. I haven't done much of their stuff, but I just discovered them, so I'm not sure what that will entail. I don't know. It's a mixed bag. I am having fun with the game. I am enjoying it, and that's, I guess, essentially the most important thing. But there are some things here that, once again, I'm not sure if it's because the anticipation going in, that's my own fault. I just wish were better. And it makes me want to, which isn't a bad thing, it makes me want to play the other Arkham games again and just kind of run through those and relive those. So yeah, as I mentioned before, will this be Game of the Year candidate? I don't think so, but it is a good experience. I'm hoping for more from this team because what I have seen from this, it is good. Just maybe they can take what they have here that is good and build upon it. I haven't played any of the multiplayer, so I can't attest to that or give any opinion. I know everybody was crying because 30 frames per second, no 60 frames per second mode. I've had no issues. I am one of those people that doesn't really notice too much the frame difference, unless obviously it drops below 30, which I've only had that experience once, and it fixed itself very, very quick. Customization of the suits is cool. A little confusing on how it works initially, but it seems like if you craft a style, you then unlock the like the default one, the transmog one, or whatever you call it, based on the comic book line. And then if you equip that, then you can customize, if you equip the one you crafted, then you can customize from there. That's kind of neat. A small touch is whatever suit you customize for each of the individual heroes. Once they're on the main menu, they'll be wearing those 4 suits. So that's kind of neat. It's a small touch. The skill tree is fine. I haven't found anything that's like really interesting or cool. A lot of them are just kind of building up base stats. So higher chance of critical or higher chance of this, XYZ. So nothing really stands out there. There is I think it's knighthood is what they call it, the mastery level skills. So I'm curious to see if maybe that unlocks anything neat. But yeah, overall, I'd say it's fine. If you're a Batman fan, I recommend it. If you're not, I wouldn't say any gameplay here breaks the bank, so maybe not. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Gotham Knights so far. Well, everybody, this has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today, giving this a watch, giving this a listen. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011, usually every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Join the chat over there and join on the conversation with us. We'd love to have you. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video in MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Remember, guys, any support that you can throw our way, whether it's leaving a review, a comment, a rating, etc., etc. It may seem small, but it does go a long way in progress, whether making the show better or just getting this to more people's eyes and ears, stuff like that. So whatever you could do is appreciated. And we got merch on the merch store, so you can always go over there too if you want to support in that way. We'd love you for it. Last but not least, I didn't mention this at the beginning of the podcast, but Extra Life is coming up, guys. As of recording, or rather as of release, so this Friday, if you're listening to it right now as it drops, Jeff Reg is doing his Extra Life stream tomorrow, November 5th. He's going to be starting at 12 noon Central. Going to be playing through Mass Effect Andromeda, so please go support him over there. If you want to tune in for our Extra Life is going to be on November 26th, starting at 12 p.m. Eastern. For 24 hours, going to be playing some games over there, raising money for the Big Beautiful Kids, helping those guys out. A wide variety of games, a lot of party games, some games you guys will be able to get involved with as well as the audience. So hope to see you guys there. More information about that all on the social media platforms, so you can check that over there. Yeah, thank you. Once again, guys, thanks for watching, giving this a listen, and we will see you guys on the next one. Take care.